Moving on, an Arizona rancher accused of murdering a Mexican man on his land near the border while allegedly firing at a group of migrants is set to go on trial in just 2 weeks. 74-year-old George Allan Kelly is facing a second-degree murder charge over the deadly encounter back in January. The rancher's lawyer says he only fired warning shots and never directly shot at anyone. NewsNation's Ali Bradley caught up with Kelly today as he walked into a pretrial hearing. He said that he was optimistic that some of the charges could actually be dropped.
They're considering dismissing additional charges against you. What might that mean for your case, and what are you hoping for today?
I don't know what it means, and I'm just hoping.
Okay, so that hasn't happened yet in terms of them dismissing the charges. Joining us now is NewsNation's Ali Bradley. Explain to us what did happen in that hearing today. And that was quite a moment when he walked out, and I think this has happened to you before, where he walks out and he'll talk to you.
Yeah, so I've actually talked with George Allan Kelly multiple times, Brian, on and off camera. I've been here for every one of the hearings that they've had, and NewsNation is one of the only ones to do so. He's actually pulled me aside and literally said, I know you're not here just for the publicity. I know you're actually down here covering this and you care what's going on. So he does talk to us. He walked right into that live shot and had that brief conversation with us. Another thing that happened at this hearing was that the state's key witness, identified as DRR. Now, there was kind of concern that this witness was not going to testify, Brian. The state just last week was actually considering temporarily dismissing the charges against George Allan Kelly because their case was seemingly falling apart. Today, though, the state confirmed that DRR will, in fact, be testifying in this murder trial next month. And again, this happening just today. Now, another thing that was brought up was a witness's criminal history. That is something that potentially caused him to be reluctant to testify, where the defense said that he smuggled marijuana into the United States back in 2015. He spent 7 months in prison during that time. Now, the judge did grant the state a motion to drop some of the assault charges here, Brian, that were related to a different witness. They had a different witness named RFG that was supposed to testify as well. They couldn't find him over in Mexico, so they ended up dropping those assault charges against George Allan Kelly. But right now, what the state is dealing with is they're trying to prove that Kelly killed Gabriel Ken Butamea in his Keno Springs yard back in January. But Kelly maintains he never shot anyone. He says that he shot over 5 people that were running through his property in camouflage, some of them carrying rifles. Now, the state also was trying to get some of the text messages into court that were between George Allan Kelly and some friends. Now, George Allan Kelly was saying that he put 27 migrants in the ground who were, quote, growing daisies. The judge denied the state's motion, though, to use those text messages. We did talk with George Allan Kelly again after the hearing. He said he had no idea what to expect, but Kelly also condemned the state's comments, comparing him to the Unabomber. Take a listen.
Not to be smart, but I've learned in this whole proceeding not to expect anything.
As far as the text messages not being admissible and them talking about comparing you to the Unabomber, do you have any comment on that, saying that your political affiliations were motive?
I don't have any comment on that. I won't justify that with a comment.
Okay, so the defense is now opting not to use any of its expert witnesses in the trial as testimony. They're instead going to be using these 5 individuals as consultants, Brian, as we continue on through these proceedings. Now, the state did ask for yet another continuation. They've asked for one every single time we've had these hearings. Once again, it was denied. So that trial and that jury selection will begin September 6th. That is when we'll sit back down in that courtroom with George Allan Kelly.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a win for Kelly that those text messages will not be allowed. You had a chance to actually look over the juror questionnaire form. It's going to be interesting, jury selection, especially with the border being such a hot issue right now in that area.
Yeah, and a lot of people, the defense specifically, is questioning if it's going to be fair because it's happening in the county and it's a pretty high-profile case. Now, the judge does believe it's going to be a fair trial. They're going to select 8 jurors, 3 alternates from a pool of about 100 people, Brian. And the questionnaire is really interesting. A lot of it focuses on his age. One of the questions that they're going to be asked is if they think the law applies the same to people that are above the age of 70. One of the questions that they're going to ask relates to firearms, if their family members own any firearms and what their stances on having a firearm. Another thing that they're going to be looking at is immigration and where that fits into these jurors' lives. If they've had any family members cross into the United States illegally, that is a question on that form. That questionnaire will be looked at by the judge on Tuesday. We'll be back in there on the 29th to look over that questionnaire as well, Brian.
Yeah, we know you'll stay on it, Ali Bradley. Thanks so much for the report.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.